Discord's adding some cool stuff. I'm still not sure where I land on the whole like thread debacle, but I
feel like threads will make it easier to sort discussions, but I also I don't know how it looks to like find a thread, because Discord is literally still just a constant wall, you know? Mm-hmm. So is there a directory somewhere? If you start making threads in a channel, does the channel gain a directory? Almost like a pin?
Pin them?
Yeah, what? Discord, what do?
Look, Nick.
What?
On your very screen.
I'm watching. I'm looking.
Up by the pins, there is a button for threads.
Holy crap.
Wow.
So then...
You asked the universe, and the universe hath answered.
Can anybody... All right, I'm making a thread. This is going to be called the test thread. The starter message.
I'm sure you're the first person to do it.
Hey, guys, we're testing the new threads. Archive after inactivity, 24 hours. Sure, why not? I don't know what that means. Only people you invite and moderators can see. No, we want everybody to see this. And we're going to add an emoji because it has a button right there. Let's do the elder sign. Great
the
thread.
Episode is just us testing threads live.
Oh, interesting. So it's
just
exactly a sidebar.
Oh, what? I like this.
Test thread.
Yeah. Oh, and now Sean added to the first. Yeah. And
no!
Oh, you got sniped by Lone Star. It's always the strawberry.
Oh, nice. Okay, I like that.
Fantastic.
But now I'm getting notifications whenever the thread gets posted in, and I don't like that. So we're gonna mute the thread that I made.
Create a thing just to ignore it, you cruel master.
You know, look at all the half-started books I've got, and games and shit.
Mythos Busters, investigating the mystery, monsters, and madness of Arkham Horror, the card game.
Hello, and welcome to episode 111 of Mythos Busters. That's 11-1 to you hobbits. With me tonight are two of my co-hosts. Guys, I have to tell you that I like less than half of you, half as well as you deserve, and the other half... No, I've already fucked it up. No, I had one job, and I already screwed it up. It's Nick. Hey, Nick.
Hello.
What's the actual line?
Ian probably... You threw that to me, but Ian's probably the one to throw it to.
Ian, save me.
Yeah.
I would have to look it up because it's always confusing. I know... I can't. Yeah, I messed it up too.
Well, it's deliberately confusing. So,
it's supposed to be.
I know half of you half as well as I should like, and I like less than half of you half as well as you deserve.
As well as you deserve.
Yeah. That's the one. That's the one. And the crowd stared at Bilbo for several moments, trying to decide whether they had been complimented or detracted.
I love it.
It's such a good little moment. Hi, this is in fact episode 11-1 of Mythos Busters. We've got a fun show for you guys tonight. Scott's obviously missing. I skipped over that. He's still busy, so we'll catch up with him when we can. We've got our normal openers. We've got some news and some catch-up, some voicemails. And then tonight, our discussion topic, we're just going to go ahead and finish off the Innsmouth conspiracy cycle. We're going to talk about Into the Maelstrom. And all of those good things. So buckle up, baby. Here we go. So for those of you who are listening live, you have a 24-hour period probably to go. This is the last chance for our Pride merch. If you haven't seen it already, check out mythosmerch.com. We did a cool Pride logo. It was fun, and all of our donations are going to the Trans Lifeline charity, which we will do in a couple days. So if you haven't checked it out already, go check that out. And guys, sorry, go ahead, Nick.
I was going to say, if you're listening on the RSS, too late.
Yeah. I mean, if you ask nicely, we might be able to figure something out, but check it out. Also, the chances are equally likely that one of us will forget. or be a few days late on it. So it's still worth going to check out if you want to look at it. So guys, what Arkham have you been playing lately? Ian?
Well, let's see now. I've kept my Windy roll through Dream Eaters going, so played 1,000 Shapes of Horror, and that went very well again. Turns out Wendy's a good investigator. Who knew?
Who knew?
And when you add in the new cards that have come out, she has been doing well. I think I've only been really kind of continuing the campaigns I have going. I haven't really started anything new, except I didn't want to be left out of you guys started playing the Dark Matter custom fan campaign, and I wanted to try it out. So I built a solo Marie deck because Marie is, I think Marie and Norman are my two least played investigators. And so
Damn.
I was like, okay, let me give Marie solo another shot. I think the last time I tried it, it was probably like Circle and Done or something somewhere around. I mean, not Circle and Done, Carcosa, way earlier than that. So it's been a long time. So anyway, yeah, I built a deck and started playing through Dark Matter. We will talk more about like custom stuff. We do have plans of having like a episode focused on that. But for now, I'll just say that the first scenario, at least, of that campaign is super well done, super interesting. It's great. It's one of those things where, like, as a creative person, you're like, why didn't I make that? Why wish I designed that? 100%. It totally hits that button. But
yeah, I totally know what that's like to develop things.
But as far as the Marie deck, I don't think there's anything too tricksy in it. But I always forget that Marie's a weird one because she has a really she has a good stat line that I quite enjoy. You know, 4 intellect and 4 will gives you kind of a good starting point. She has 1 combat, so she's not really wasting a stat on what you don't need her to do. And then 3 agility gives you some room to just do a raw evade if you need to. So she's good at getting clues, and like with her Doom play, being able to just like get an extra action to play spells. So I was leveraging like Read the Signs and Spectral Razor. Those are all spells. Voice of Ra is a spell, so you can do a little nice extra action to get resources essentially with Voice of Ra. Moonlight Ritual is a spell, of course. So just using her ability gets you far. But I think the only thing, and I didn't run into it yet with Marie. Of course, I have run into it in the past with her. I think the only bad thing anyone ever has to say with her is that weakness
The Baron!
of hers. But the Baron, yeah. Because you can, I mean, there's a lot of tools now to control Doom and Doom play. It's not a huge deal, I think, to be like, okay, let me keep Doom on and then I'll get rid of it when I need to. But if the Baron comes out... So... Yeah, how do you rate those kind of... I don't want to go too far down the rabbit hole, but I'm just curious, how do you rate investigators based on, like, one bad card in the deck, their signature weakness, but how much does that affect, like, how you rate them?
I don't know. How many times has it hurt me? I'm a simple man.
Yeah, and usually it'll be the last time that it happened will stick large in your memory and have an outsized effect at how you rate them.
Can confirm.
So, I don't want to give anything away about that first scenario in Dark Matter because it is a banger and everybody who hasn't played it should. But, Ian, how did you feel about your choice of investigator when you saw the first agenda?
I was a little nervous, but But anyone who knows how I like to play Arkham is I tend to take quite a few risks sometimes. So yeah, I slapped down my Arcane Initiate turn 1 and was like, let's go.
Yeah, I was say Sean also played Arcane Initiate round 1, and I was like, like at first I was like, yeah, it's fine, and then we got to like 6 Doom, and I was like, oh my god, like, please. Oh no, it's really.
Although to be fair, I think I did have Moonlight Ritual in my opening hand, so.
Sure. I did not.
Yeah, exactly.
True
I just play it raw, baby.
Yeah.
But yeah, Nick, I mean, it's definitely worth mentioning since we're talking about it. You and I started a thing, which I feel like is the first Nick and Sean joint. For TNA, we've got a first playthrough of the Tattered Medallion.
Yeah,
right?
Tattered Demalion.
That's the one.
But yeah, you're close.
Out on the YouTube. It's actually the first, I think, TNA series where we're playing something as our face check.
Yeah.
So we're actually reading all the cards, and you're getting raw reactions and lots of despairing from me, because I thought on several occasions that we were just fucked.
Yeah, it looked that way, especially in like the middle of the scenario. Oh boy, like yeah, we got past that first agenda, but then it like when I told some of my friends about this, I was like, it was literally last action win. Like if we hadn't lined everything up exactly so for that last turn, it would have been game over. So no, really good scenario.
Yeah. Was blown away, first of all, by like the premise of the campaign. I don't want to spoil anything for anyone, because if you're at all interested, like, experiencing it fresh is 100% recommended. Though if you're not interested at all, please go check out our YouTube play. If you're one of those people who's like, custom stuff sounds fun, but I'm never going to get around to it. Well, you don't have to. We've got a Let's Play out there.
Yeah, I mean, even though I haven't played a lot of it, sadly, just because Arkham time is limited, but I have looked through some of the custom stuff, and I'd say there's some really high quality Arkham custom campaigns and scenarios out there.
I was smart when I entered the custom game early and then stopped.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, I mean, well, you got to design for the game, so you got your nut and you got out.
I didn't want to brag, but you know what? You're right.
I'll brag on you. It's fine. So anyway, go check that out. And Nick, we need to talk about when the next time we're playing is, because I can't stop thinking about it.
I know.
And it's going to be great. So, so more of that to come. All right, let's move into the hotline. We got a couple of responses from last week's prompt, which was essentially asking, with the onset of the Edge of the Earth campaign, what do you want to see the game do? So let's take a listen.
Hey Busters, Big Kahuna here. The style of play I think would be good to explore in Edge of the Earth is around healing. Currently, only Mark and a few other investigator builds regularly run a significant amount of healing. Most of us utilize soak instead of healing, or just try to race to the finish of the scenario before we run out of either health or sanity. I think it would be an interesting change to incentivize people to slow down and keep their health and sanity totals up. Healing mostly only matters if your investigator will be knocked out. Otherwise, it's a waste of actions, resources, and card slots. Perhaps the campaign could have treacheries or tests that get harder based on the amount of damage or horror on your investigator, or it could have enemies with some sort of bloodlust ability, making them tougher or fiercer when facing wounded investigators. I know that this could lead to a death spiral of sorts, where taking a bit of unlucky damage or horror early could cascade into a failure of a scenario, but I would like an excuse to use cards like Clarity of Mind, Clarity of Body, and First Aid out of my box, and put them into the deck. Anyway, thanks, guys. Bye.
Okay. So as, like, the guy who, when I play an MMO, I, like, immediately rush to support / heals, or, like, Overwatch, I, like, immediately go to healing. I agree. We'll maybe get into this a little bit more as we talk through Innsmouth, but I feel like Innsmouth was close to being the healing campaign. I feel like it's very, very taxing on your stats in a way that it hasn't been, the game hasn't been up to this point, but I don't think it was slow enough to justify stopping and healing. So almost, but not quite.
Yeah, I think it's really the pacing of the scenarios that just traditionally they just don't give you enough, especially in lower player counts or solo. It's like, when do you ever have time to stop to heal? Pretty much never. So I think, even if it's not Edge of the Earth, though, with this new model and having all the scenarios in one box, maybe there's room for more, like, longer scenarios or multi-part scenarios where it becomes more of like a marathon than a sprint, and then I think you could make more room for healing effects probably.
Do you think that comes at the risk of making the game drag at all?
Oh, for sure. It's definitely a big risk because anytime there's a scenario that goes on a long time, it really needs to justify itself and be interesting. Like a good example to me is Kadath, which is definitely on the longer side, but there's so much variety and it gives you that sense of a journey. I usually don't mind it unless I don't have that much time to play,
right?
And I have to rush it. But
how about the Eternal Slumber?
Is that the first one or the second one? Or no, that's the name of both, isn't it? That's like the mini campaign or whatever.
No, the Eternal Slumber is number 1 of Guardians of the Abyss.
Oh, I think I can say that I like the idea of Eternal Slumber more than I like actually playing Eternal Slumber. Unless I'm like playing 4-player, and we're on like it's an event, you know what I mean? Like it's like, okay, let me rephrase. Unless it's me with you guys playing Eternal Slumber, I never play it. I never play it on my own. I just don't have a desire to. It's too long. It's too punishing. Yeah, no, not for me.
Fair enough.
Yeah, I think I agree. I was going to say the same thing, that I think it works fairly well as like an event scenario. I've had fun playing at an event because you're just with people and you kind of want a longer scenario so you can go on this journey together. But at home, usually, again, and if you kind of can't have a very long scenario that's also like super punishing along the way. It's just not a great combination. But then on the other hand, if there's not enough pressure and danger, then I feel like it will drag.
Yeah.
If you're just kind of like cruising along through this long scenario. I don't know. It's a very tough balance, I think.
I mean, you bring up multi-part scenarios, and the only multi-part scenario that exists to this day is, not universally, but at least amongst us, our least favorite in the campaign that it's in. Like Heart of the Elders, the first part is, it's either trivial because you've done so well up to that point, or you have to repeat it, And then the second part is, like, I honestly forget what the second part is even like. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. I don't think... I'm going to loop it back to support and healing and all that, I'm going to take the opposite side of the fence from you guys. I'm going to say it's more based on the player cards and the investigators than it is on the scenarios and the pacing, necessarily. I think that we need to see an investigator or a couple of suites of healing a suite of healing cards that isn't so action intensive, or that gives you more bang for the healing that already exists. You know what I mean? Clarity of Mind and the healing counterpart to that, they're just too slow, and they also take
action is worth so much.
Yeah, well, and they also take up an arcane slot, and other one arcane slot spells are generally valued higher than they are. So I feel like if there was an investigator that did almost like a Nat Cho thing, where it's like, whenever you remove damage or horror from a player card effect, remove 1 additional damage and or horror, that sort of thing. Or if there was, I don't know, it's all like, so much of it is tied to assets, and you have to get those in play, and then you have to trigger them, and the ones that are tied to events, there's like, there's Second Wind, and is that it?
An emergency aid.
Emergency aid, yep. And that one I've played.
It's probably the only one actually worth playing.
Yeah.
It's a quick 1 action for 2 heal.
Yep. And it can hit allies as well as investigators, which can be useful in certain builds. So, I don't know. I think we either need to see more flexibility or just better use of our actions when it comes to healing. I think it's more player card dependent than it is scenario.
Oh. Fucking lay it down, King. I am so with you.
Yeah, and I think the other problem with healing, and this kind of goes to what Big Huna was talking about, is you might as well just spend those actions to put out soaks instead, like allies, for example, that are actually doing stuff for you while kind of soaking up damage or horror. But if the scenario or campaign is actually kind of triggering off of damage being in play, then that would change it up a little bit, like he was suggesting. And I'm kind of thinking too, in Lord of the Rings, one of the cycles actually did that a lot. They would have effects that are focusing on damaged characters and doing stuff to them. So
you want to keep everybody topped off, essentially.
Yeah,
Sure.
If you can.
Yeah, it's tough because it's so much easier and it's so much it's cleaner in your like playbook to just slap something down that can soak 3 health and then never worry about it again, you know? And then just when you take damage, you can just put it on that thing. So I think if going back to the scenario side, if we saw scenarios that were more like like you brought up Eternal Slumber, like that specifically targets allies, you know, that sort of thing. If we saw more scenario card or treacheries or whatever that targeted damaged allies, or like Tommy, he's got his weakness that if you got a bunch of allies in play, but if each one is only sitting on 1 damage, then you're in a tough spot suddenly. You know, like there's definitely room to expand and play with it, and I would love to see more use come out of that. Because I'm not a support main, but I am a tank main, and I love having my
So you
support
love
around.
supports.
Yeah, I love having them around.
That's why we're friends. Yeah, like I would love to care more about healing. I'd be interested to see how that could be made to happen. All right, so let's move on to the next one then.
Hi, Mythos Busters. This is Sam from the Excelsior podcast. We are a little Marvel podcast you might have heard of. But listening to your most recent episode, the player space I want Edge of the Earth to explore more is movement. And this is specifically because of Monterey Jack. I know we have had plenty of like move cards like Shortcut and Pathfinder and cards like that, but I want to see more cards that give you benefits for moving. Like, obviously Monterey Jack gives you that if you started, again, your turn a location away, or 2, you get the bonus he gives you. But I want to see more things like, when you move, do X ability, or something that lets you move for, like, passing, like, if you have an asset that lets you move after passing a certain test or something similar to, like, Mists. I think that's a really cool space that lets you really zoom around the map. And if we get some more upgraded secret cards that do that, even better for Ursula. Anyways, I love what you guys are doing, and I want to throw a question out to you guys as which investigator are you most personally excited for in the Edge of the Earth? Thanks for all you do.
Yeah, because Ursula really needs a lot of help. So let's get her some more tools. Lily for me, although I think Bob looks really cool too, but Lily's top of my list, hands down.
I think everyone will expect me to say Monterey Jack, but actually
Accurate.
mine is Lily as well. It's just something so new to the game, and I think figuring out how to make it work is going to be a fun puzzle.
Oh, well, I'll make it the hat trick.
There we go.
Probably surprising no one. But even if Lily had not been a mystic, and, you know, you could argue that maybe she isn't, I have always very much liked Lily because Eldritch Horror was like my introduction to the... also, it's my daughter's name, so I'm kind of partial to it.
I know that feeling.
But yeah. So anyway, then back to kind of movement. What do you guys think about adding more movement play, essentially?
I love the idea if we see it bleed into the other classes more. You know what I mean?
Not just Seeker and Rogue.
Yeah. Like, they have the tools, and the movement tools that they have work for those classes. I guess Guardian has, like, Safeguard, but I've never played Safeguard. I don't know if you guys have, and if you have played it, have you gotten it to fire?
Yes.
Has it worked
Yep.
for you?
Yes, and yes, and yes. It's great.
Have you played the
it's fantastic.
level 0 or the leveled up?
Yes.
Oh, okay. All right.
I would argue that most decks only really need level 0.
Sure.
Unless
agreed.
you're playing with someone that's super highly mobile. But the leveled up one is not bad at all.
The deck, like in that particular instance, did you build 2 decks to function? Did you build them, did you build the other deck, not the Guardian one, but the other one, with the expectation that the Guardian would always be at the same location? Because I have trouble building my decks, focused in two-handed. I still prefer to make them pretty general, they both can kind of do everything decks, you know what I mean?
Yeah, well, I mean, at least for my part, lately I have always been building my two-handed investigators to flex, but with a specialization. So, I'll have a specialized clover that has enemy management and a killer that can grab clues from time to time, depending on what, things they have available to them.
Sure.
I think it is a little bit scenario and map dependent, how much, energy you're going to get out of it. But if the idea is that your person who's more inclined to killing is sticking around your person who's more inclined to cluing, you can save yourself a lot of actions over the course of the game. And it might not be every time you move. Right. It doesn't fire all the time, but I have found it to be a very worthy include.
Well, that's fair
then. That said, give me a leveled up astral travel that lets me pull other investigators with. And my kingdom for that card. That would be an amazing card. Just throwing that out there.
A nice teleport spell.
Right?
That brings everyone along. I don't know if it counts as movement, but I kind of want to explore, and I think this can be done in a way that doesn't break scenarios, but more opportunities for players to put out locations. Maybe you're putting out a little a little hut that you can set as a location, and it connects to maybe just the location you're at, stuff like that. So
Jack's yurt.
Yeah, so you're kind of manipulating movement in a different way by just expanding the map, and maybe there are some effects on those locations. I don't know. It'd be kind of cool to just be able to, especially in Edge of the Earth, since it is this kind of wilderness. It would make sense. You can add a snow cave or something. I don't know.
I mean, have you played Luke?
Yeah, I mean, Luke is what inspired the idea, so I want other people to have the Luke experience and not just Luke.
I mean, that's interesting. Gosh, how would that even... I'm trying to picture how a location... It'd have to be, bonded. You know what I mean? It couldn't just be, you draw the top card of your deck and it's a location you can put into play. It'd almost have to be a bonded card. And we haven't seen bonded since it came out. So that'd be cool to get some more... Have we? There haven't been... It's just been the Circle Undone cycle, right? Was that when they came out?
That was when it debuted, was at the end of Circle Undone, but the majority of the bonded cards were released in Dream Eaters.
Oh, never mind then. I guess I'm the asshole here. But you know what I mean? If we could get more bonded stuff, that'd be a cool way to use it, and also a very unique way. However, I don't know if adding additional that's almost the antithesis of movement. We're gonna force every map to be bigger, But that's still cool. I still think that's really awesome.
I would like to see it expanded, but I don't think the answer is to give everyone crazy big movement options unless you're reaching into the higher levels. I love actually some of the things Sam mentioned, Mists of Relia. Really good spell because you're playing it to evade, but that little move bonus in that moment is so good most of the time. And things like Nimble. Nimble is an amazing skill. You're committing it to a test you're already taking, but you get a little move bonus. So just it
could be a big bonus.
It very well could be. So just it's a very common thing for us to get draw a card or get a resource or little bonus tag-ons to whatever we're doing. A movement action as a little bonus is super valuable, and I hope we continue to see things like that.
The other movement I really want to see is vehicles, which Like, and I'm not talking about story asset vehicles. I still want a player card motorcycle.
Yeah.
I don't care. Like, I don't care if it's weird in certain scenarios. If you can ride your motorcycle down the staircase, I do not care. I still want a player card
Use
motorcycle.
your motorcycle to steer the car in Light in the Fog. Or no, Horror and Hiker.
Horror and Hiker, yep.
Yeah.
And I need Lonnie to be able to repair it.
Yes.
I just do.
That's fair.
Yes.
I'm a simple man.
I wholeheartedly agree. Parallel Tommy, give him his motorcycle. Mm-hmm. Or not parallel. Yeah,
Guys, we're not even through the core set yet in parallel. I wouldn't get too excited.
However, I was going to say the other side of Sam's question or discussion topic that I think would be great to see is that instead of riders that give you movement like Mists or Nimble, cards that give riders to movement like Field Work. That came out really early, and we haven't seen anything else really like that, where it's like, hey, when you move, just exhaust this thing and get a thing. Like that, there's a lot of space to play with that, and that would be pretty cool.
Agree. Like when you move into a location with an enemy, do something cool. That'd be a good Guardian card.
Discover a clue, yeah.
All right, cool. Thank you both for calling in. We always appreciate your participation. So, obviously, I'm going to let this one roll for a week, so if there's anything else anyone would like to mention, like things you're looking for or card space you'd like to see explored, please tell us about it. And then, of course, we're going to keep this one ongoing, too, with the normal release cadence now coming to a close. Your friendly neighborhood Mythos Busters are going to have a lot more freedom to kind of spread out and talk about other things, because we're actually more or less caught up on review content. I think we might want to throw a few episodes out there to the return content, because that probably warrants some talking about. But we get to do fun games, or if there's, I don't know, if there's anything you'd like to hear us talk about or ideas for discussion, we'd love to hear them. So call on any of that into the Mythos Busters hotline. That's 203-493-MYTH, or 203-493-6984. Ooh, yeah, word economy. We definitely have to go back to word economy.
I don't remember what that is.
That was Big Tentacles Exploding.
Oh, that was one of the most frustrating games I ever played, because I realized that we all see different things.
Yep. Oh, it was fantastic. All right, Ian, what patron news have we this week?
Alrighty, so first off, thanks to our board members. That's Chris B, Chris H, and Chris M, our conglomeration of Chris's. Morton, Jared, Ian, Kyle, Philip, Dave, Abilio, Jesse, Chad, and Robert. Thank you so much for your huge support of the podcast and continuing to support us over all this time. Special shout out to a random patron this time around goes to Aaron Atkins. Thanks, Aaron, for your support as well. Mythosmerch.com. If you have yet to visit our lovely merch site, please do, and buy stuff and take pictures and show us pictures of you wearing it in the wild or drinking coffee in the wild with our mugs, whatever the case may be. And finally, we do have some new job titles to give out, some new members of the office. They've gotten their official paperwork done, and so we're ready to hand them their nameplates. So we'll whip around to do these. So first off, Michael is going to be the South Pole snow shoveler.
I hear there's a lot of it about.
Yes, especially at the edge of the earth, there's lots of snow to shovel, so that's a very important job. Sean, why don't you read the next one?
So Daniel Ferris, hitherto, will be acting as our Dark Young ring counter. Because I don't know if you guys know this, but if you chop a Dark Young in half, you can tell its age by counting the rings.
That's the preferred method.
Yeah, you can stick that in your back pocket. Pull it out later. Impress the girls.
Nick, you got the next one.
Yeah, so Psycho Dad, already coming in strong. How do you improve on Psycho Dad? Well, we tried. But now I'm realizing that we didn't have the discussion that set up this joke, so now I also get to explain the joke at the same time, which is fun.
You're welcome.
So Psycho Dad is our class conflict referee, And if you don't know what we're talking about, that is because we discussed how do you label that type of progression when an investigator starts as one class but then levels up into another class, like Norman and Monterey and Lily and presumably the whole edge of the empire, edge of the what is it? Edge of the earth.
Edge of the earth.
Edge of the earth. Presumably all of those investigators. And we got an email from Sean. Do you remember who it came from? I don't remember.
Yeah, I have it up in the background.
Oh,
here.
perfect.
That came from. Can you tell? It came from James. James, thank you, James.
So
or the lurking derp one, as he.
Oh God, that yes. Okay, perfect. The lurking derp one.
Okay, you know what? At this point, I'm just gonna read it. It's short.
Yeah,
do it. Yeah, all right.
Here we are. You know, we've already completely fucked this up. Let's at least give everyone.
Hey, now
context.
I was trying.
You did the best with the shit hand we dealt you. So James writes, Dear Elder Things, in your most recent podcast you mentioned needing a term for the act of forgetting that evolving investigators, such as Norman Withers, cannot buy cards in higher than level 0 for their starting class. I believe Karl Marx described this in Das Kapital as something called class conflict. I haven't read the book, though. Sincerely, the lurking derp one. P.S. Have you ever considered releasing a line of Mythos bustiers? Think about it.
The wordplay is
And now
strong
we have.
with him.
And class conflict is perfect. I'm going to use it. Let's make it a meme.
Yeah. So anyway, so Psycho Dad, the already, some would say perfectly named, has the title of class conflict referee. Going to be making sure that our Norman decks are correct. Have
Strange solution free.
Yes, that's the true. Yeah. So there we go.
And finally, we have Kelly Murphy. Kelly is going to be taking on the title of Parallel Investigator Straightener. Because sometimes they need to be straightened out. It's the thing that happens.
Yeah, can't let them touch.
Yeah. No.
If you do, the universe...
Yeah, don't cross.
Don't
in
cross.
on
Yeah.
itself.
You know,
I knew we'd get there.
there's a fan theory that that they all died when the streams crossed, and everything after that is like purgatory or afterlife. That's so funny. Anyway,
Imagine fighting ghosts in the afterlife.
Right.
Like a whole other level of...
aren't you then
If
ghosts
you're going to fight
yourselves?
anyone in the afterlife.
Yeah.
Yeah. Ghosts fighting ghosts. Okay.
It's a ghost eat ghost world.
The Ghostbusters busted themselves. Okay.
I mean, we're getting a sequel, so that's not out of the question.
Wait, we are?
True.
Yeah, the new trailer just dropped recently. Would recommend.
Wait, like a Ghostbusters 3 or a sequel to the Ghostbusters that came out 5 years ago or whatever?
No, like Dan Aykroyd and...
No!
and I think Rick Moranis got tagged. Hang on.
What?
Yeah, no, it's like Ghostbusters 3, essentially.
I do not believe that Rick Moranis is in it.
I might be wrong.
Okay.
I thought I'd heard rumors, but that might be old and fake news, so I'm not going to hold to it.
Interesting. Oh wait, I think I heard of this, isn't it? Sorry, this is now a Ghostbusters podcast.
It's bound to happen.
Yeah, right. I mean, it's either Batman, Arkham, or Ghostbusters. So, is this the one with all kids? Like, is it like the kids are the main cast? Is that right, or is it actually? No, am I making?
Yeah,
Something
no, you're
right.
correct.
Yeah.
You're correct.
It has one of the kids.
You guys
from
are an
Stranger
inspiring
Things, I think.
confidence. Oh, okay.
I was just letting you finish your description.
I will.
before
Well,
I
it was losing steam really fast. I will research this in the background because I need to know more.
Yeah, fantastic. Well, don't cross the streams, Kelly. We're all relying on you. Nick, I think we have a little bit of news left over that Ian and I did not touch on.
I guess I can't research this in the background quite yet. Yeah. So
Your time will come.
we have some leftover. It'll be great during the main two-pot because I haven't played the scenario that we'll be discussing. So then I can go Ghostbusters, to the nines. What the hell am I even talking about? Anyway, we have leftover cards from the last episode from the reveal stream for Edge of the Earth that we are going to talk about. And the first one that will be discussed is 21 or Bust. This is a green card, but we have multiple green cards, so I'm just going to go ahead and read it. 21 or Bust is a 2-cost rogue event, level 0, has combat and agility icons, fortune and gambit traded, So Rex cannot take this because it is fortune traded. And then the game text reads, one at a... I know, he really needed some new stuff, and just unfortunately he cannot. Anyway, one at a time.
I mean, less that trade, he could take it. That Dunwich Splash.
Exactly. One at a time, reveal random tokens from the Chaos Bag until you choose to stop. I mean, those cards are always great, right? Henry Wan, yep, perfect. Treat each Skull, Cultist, Tablet, or Elder Thing as a 5, and treat the Autofail as a 10, and treat the Elder Sign as either a 1 or an 11. I think I get what we're going for here. If the combined value of those tokens, ignoring plus and minus, is 18 or less, gain 4 resources, 19, gain 5 resources, 20, gain 6 resources, 21, gain 9 resources. So, full disclosure, this is my first time seeing this card. This is now my favorite level 0 rogue card. I love it.
Well, I'm looking for the stakes. Like, you gotta have a Jawa at the Dune Sea. And I mean, this is Arkham Sabak right here.
Essentially, yeah.
I too love it. I don't even care about power level or anything about that. Like, if you're integrating a Blackjack mini game in my Arkham game, like, I'm just gonna play the card because
so
of
good.
that. Oh,
I mean, look, you roll up to a multiplayer game and you've got like Safina and you play this 3 times, and like 3 times during the game you're like, hang on guys, I gotta play this for a second.
I was just thinking Safina is the perfect gambler because it's like premonition, olive. Yeah, all right, let's see it. Okay, perfect. 21 again. Got it. Just over here painting my win in Blackjack. This is so... I just... Wow.
It's pretty great.
It's awesome.
Yeah, I'm sure there'll be lots of times where you pay the 2 for it and you bust and you get nothing.
Yeah, of course.
I mean, yes. And like, what's really funny is that the math of every scenario's bag is different and shifting even within itself.
Oh my god, yeah.
So like, trying to do the math on trying to count cards in this particular game of Blackjack is going to be fun.
Yeah. So now you need to build. You as in anybody needs to build a Skids deck with this and play House Always Wins and just spend the whole time playing Blackjack with Skids.
You're just gambling.
Yeah, just the whole time. Because, oh my god, you can actually cheat in that. So you can
treat a token as any other token.
You can cheat in Blackjack in Arkham. That's insane.
Full fucking circle.
Holy fuck.
Oh.
That is some CCG level shit.
I want to end the episode right now. I think that's the high point. I don't think we're gonna get any better than that.
Yeah.
Jesus Christ. Okay.
You know what's gonna be the best part is being the person who's not playing this and trying to get the other person to hit on like fucking 19. Yeah. That's gonna be the best.
Do you give
I think someone else needs to take over as dealer if you play this guy.
I was just going to say, do you give someone else the bag and you're like, hit me.
Yes, I think 100% you do that.
That's what
I think I'm going to have to include this in Iron Man.
Yes!
I just have to.
Oh my god. All right, we need to move on because I'm going to be stuck on that table for a while. So, Sean, do you want to read Schaffner's catalog?
Sure thing. Schaffner's catalog. That has like extra vowels at the end. I don't know what that's about. Is a level 0 survivor asset. It's 2 cost. It has an intellect icon. It is item and tome traded. Oh boy, what a world we're living in where like just straight advertising is considered a tome. It uses 5 secrets, and if it has no secrets, discard it. You may spend secrets on Schaffner's catalog as resources to pay for item assets played by any investigator at your location. So this is why Bob can't take Attorney Urkel. This is what he gets instead, I suppose.
Right. Yeah, I do remember seeing this one revealed on the stream and really liking it. Also, I had my mic muted. I did laugh when you said the catalog is a tome. Like, wow, how far we've come.
I appreciate that.
I had to turn my fan on because I was sweating from how worked up I got over 21 hours. So, but no.
Well, I appreciate the gesture of backing up to let me know that you laughed. It touches my heart.
I know that if it were me and I said that and no one laughed, I'd be like, come on, fuckers. But no, I really like this. This is a really good card. Like, Bob, I think this is an auto-include. But anyone other than Bob, I'm not sure. Like, you could actually do Min and double dip this and Attorney Urkel. And
ooh, that's true.
Be total support Min, because now you're committing cards and you're paying for everything, too. So, that's pretty cool. And yeah, Reaverman in chat says this plus Yorick. Yeah, Yorick would like this a lot, too. So, good card.
Yeah, just straight up, and then Yorick recurs this the next time he kills something.
Oh, God, yeah,
damn,
because it's
Yorick
an item.
Really good.
Oh, this ghoul also subscribed to Schaffner's catalog. How surprising.
And I know there's also various cards which I am not going to list because I haven't played much with secrets, but they'll let you move secrets around or add secrets. So because this starts with so many secrets compared to a lot of other cards, it might be ripe for that kind of play.
Yeah. Also, I just realized that not Yorick, but anybody who takes this card could potentially order a Schaffner's catalog from the Schaffner's catalog and get your subscription going. And it doesn't take up any slots, so you can have both in play, which is insane. Wow, yeah. Nice.
Yeah, now every time I see secrets, I'm looking at whether or not Ariadne's Twine can come into play.
Wow.
Which, I mean, really, in this one, it's not like bonkers. You're
Sure.
just turning resources for yourself into resources for anyone.
Yeah.
But if you're playing that support, that's still pretty cool.
No, I actually really want to try a Min deck now that focuses on that. That'd be fun.
I just love the idea of someone had ordered something from the catalog like several weeks ago and it arrives right in the middle of a scenario. There's that chainsaw I ordered.
All right. Well, Ian, I feel bad now for taking 21 or bust from you because it was such a fucking journey. But if you want to read Untimely Transaction for us.
Mm-hmm.
Before we move on, Jeff points out it is a handless tome, which is notable. It does not take up a hand slot.
Yeah.
Interesting.
So that's a thing. All right, that's all.
All right. Untimely Transaction is a cost 0, level 1 event with 1 wild icon, favor traded. Reveal an item asset in your hand. Another investigator at your location may play that asset as if it were in their hand. If they do, draw 1 card and gain resources equal to that asset's printed cost.
Fun thing to note on here is that I remember this one from the stream as well, and I believe that Max said that the flavor text on this card was actual words that someone said when this card was being play tested. Really, you're gonna haggle with me now? Like, we're in the middle of, like, we're fighting this stuff and you're gonna haggle with me about buying this stuff from me? Like, really? So that was fun.
That's awesome. So this one's in a very, very similar space to You Owe Me One.
Yeah.
Which is a cool card. I've included it a couple times. I don't know that I've ever actually gotten around to playing it. Do you feel like going in this direction is better?
I think the incentive is better, and I also think it feels better, like, as the other party, as the other player, instead of being like suddenly, oh, okay. I mean, theoretically, when you play You Owe Me One, you talk to the player first, and you don't just grab a card and go with it. You know what I mean? Presumably. But I think this feels better because it's like, hey, you can get this thing. Like, I already have 2 weapons out. I don't need this weapon, and you're not using both hand slots. Maybe you want, that sort of thing. So I mean, but is it more useful? I don't. It's fun. Like, there's a bargaining aspect to it. You're definitely trying to sell them on it. Like, it's, again, this is Bob. Like, you're gonna feel like Bob when you play this card, and he's gonna use this. So.
Yeah. I also love the idea of, like, Preston playing this card and getting those resources. Because he needs them, right?
Rogues do have a lot of like high XP or XP kind of special items or exceptional items. So I could see you being some kind of super black market magic item dealer and try to give those to other players. I'm sure there's some interesting setups you can do. Just the fact that, I mean, it's just such a big part of the game that hasn't been touched really, that is now going to be explored with Bob, of like giving certain investigators access to cards that they didn't have access to,
right?
Essentially.
I just realized that Bob specifically can play Untimely Transaction, offer an item from hand, and then sweeten the deal by saying, you know what? I'll pay for that item from my catalog. Don't worry about it. I got this covered. So then spends resources from the catalog to put the item in play for the other player, and then gets those resources just back into their pool. Like
That's pretty okay.
that's not a bad combo.
You're just running money laundering.
Yeah, I know, right?
Just washing it.
All right. We have the back of Lily Chen's card here, so we must not have discussed that previously. Her deck building.
Yeah, I think we knew that it was going to be Mystic Guardian. I think the one interesting thing on there is that we didn't know before is no firearm assets.
Oh yeah.
So no guns for Lily. And then it kind of specifies how the disciplines work. Like when you create the deck, you choose one of the discipline assets. And then for every 15 experience after that, you get to add a different discipline.
Interesting. And go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say I love like the extra incentive to level up. That's really cool.
Yeah, I hope we see more of that kind of stuff. Not necessarily from the Edge of the Earth investigators, but just in general in the future, more character-specific level up options. I think that's really cool. And we do have a couple of disciplines here, so I'll go ahead and read the Prescience of Fate discipline, which is a null-costed asset. It is unbroken. This side of it's unbroken, at least. Lily Chen deck only. Permanent, you get +1 combat. Action, you get +5 skill value for the next skill test that you perform this turn. After that skill test ends, flip this asset over. This action does not provoke attacks of opportunity. So you're trading constant +1 for a big boost to a single test.
To hit an important test really hard without worrying about it.
Yeah, and then the flip side is the broken version of Prescience of Fate, which is reaction after the round ends. If you performed no skill tests this round, flip this asset over to its unbroken side. So, interesting. So you can't flip it. You can't flip it back the turn you flip it. The turn you break it, because you would be performing a skill test that round. The tricky part is you never know what you get off the encounter deck. So unless you're playing Encounter Filter, which Lily can do, you could just draw a treachery that's like, okay, perform a test and then succeed or fail. Well, great. Now I can't, unbreak my Prescience of Fate.
Hard, say you love me again.
Yep, it was going through my head too.
You're welcome. You're welcome, everyone who just had that thought. Tony Braxton aside, yeah, I mean, I don't know. It's cool. I mean, the static boost is probably what you're going to ride most of the time. I feel like that action's probably going to be most valuable in solo, because there are some moments, as you both well know, you're far more versed in solo than I am, where you just you need to do a thing and then that enemy shows up and it's like, fuck. I don't know, it's cool.
Yeah, or even high shroud locations, which those do exist and come up, and it's like, instead of spending 2 investigate actions where I don't have a great chance, I'll just pump this and make sure that I hit the second investigate, or the only investigate test, I guess.
Right.
Now,
the next test I do.
Where I would really like... Now, this is this is awesome. Like, it's great. But you know where I would really like to see this ability be able to be used is off of the encounter deck, to where I can be like, oh, I drew the card that tests agility. Great. I don't have any agility icons. But you can't use this for that because it costs an action. You have to preempt this, you know what I mean? Like, on your turn, you have to preempt the skill test that you're going to do. So...
Oh, yeah, I didn't think about that.
So it is a little niche, unfortunately.
I read it wrong.
Yeah, and it takes one of your 3 actions to do that. Like, she has to center herself before she attempts it. Which I guess, like, is an action worth +5? I don't know. You're still testing. You could still draw the tentacle. It's tough. It is interesting.
Probably pretty good in hard and expert, right?
Yeah, I mean, hard for sure.
Yeah, using it is really... I feel like it's pretty much just going to be... Like, if you're using it for fighting, it's just going to be those tests where you know you have to hit because the consequences for failure are bad, like a retaliate enemy or a boss, something like that. But otherwise, I would probably, like, just take a couple of swings at it, unless it's just a task that's way above me.
Right. Interesting. I mean... It's an interesting decision to include, and that's exciting at least. So, Sean, do you want to read the other discipline we have? I'll let you go with that word because you probably know what it is.
I'm going to go with Quiescence of Thought.
Sure.
Quiescence. So the unbroken side, you get +1 intellect, an action if you have fewer than 5 cards in your hand. Draw cards until there are 5 cards in your hand, and flip this asset over. And then the Quiescence of Thought, broken side. After the round ends, if your hand did not have 2 or more cards in it at any point this round, flip it back over to its unbroken side. So that's interesting. Drawing up to 5 is really cool. I feel like maybe a survivor would care more about it. But
or a seeker.
Yeah. That said, if I don't know, just having that on tap, if you want to have a big turn where you commit a bunch of stuff or whatever it happens to be, to know that you can spring back up to 5 and be nimble that way, that's pretty powerful.
Yeah, this one seems harder to flip. Considering her... Oh, also I looked it up. It's quiescence. But this one seems hard.
Cushions.
Yeah, quiescence. Yeah, I like that.
Quiescence of Thought.
Quiescence. Yes.
Damn it! It was right there. It was right in front of our faces.
Ian, perfect.
Well, at least we got there.
Yeah, at least we got.
Otherwise, we all would have woken up at the same moment at like 2 a.m. in a cold sweat. It was right there.
But no, I think this one is more difficult to unbreak than
your heart.
My heart, and also the prescience of fate.
Yeah,
like because you're presumably you're using this when you're at 1 or 2 cards. Like you're not gonna you wouldn't pop this to draw 2, would you? Like that'd be pretty lame.
Probably
but if you're
not unless I was digging desperately.
Yeah, but if you pop it to draw 4, that's a big jump. And considering her build, Mystic Guardian, both of those are very asset-heavy classes. Now, you don't have to build asset-heavy, obviously, but a lot of their key tools are assets. So,
and they can often find themselves draw deficient.
Yes, but then it's like, okay, now I have a handful of assets. Maybe 2 or 3 of these I really want to have in play. Are you going to be able to play enough? Or do you just commit them so that you can pop back to get that +1 int? Again, very interesting choices are brought up with these cards. Very excited to see them in play.
I think this one would work best if you're almost playing, and I don't know like what the rest of the Edge of the Earth card pool looks like. Obviously, there's like so many other player cards. But if you're playing Lily more as a kind of Nathaniel-style fighter, where you're doing a lot of events to do fighting, then that might work, because then you're constantly cleaning out your hand because you keep having to play these events to, engage enemies or fight. And then in that case, maybe you're able to unbreak this a little more often.
Have we had any of the other ones revealed? I assume there's one for each stat.
I think in the original article, if I remember right, but yeah.
Yeah, there was the willpower one.
I think so.
Yeah. Lily seems very, very interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Quite excited. All right, well, does that wrap up the news?
I believe it does.
Wonderful. Wow. And there wasn't oh, okay, hang on. I suppose tomorrow's Saturday. There could be an article posted, but you never know. I'm just waiting for we're caught up. And now FFG is going to release 3 new announcements.
I've lost track of when they generally post articles. I haven't been paying as close attention.
I mean, it's a great benefit to be part of our Discord and just kind of see it show up in the announcements channel.
Yeah.
Let's just have it served to you like so much pablum. Okay, Scott's not here, so we're going to skip rules. Guys, let's get into the main discussion topic tonight. Only an hour in. Whew. Okay, let's keep our player card review high and tight.
Oh, that's the only part I can really talk about.
Okay.
It's fine. It's fine.
We'll say what needs saying, but here we go. Nick, why don't you lead us off with hello?
Sure. Hello.
Hello.
Hello is a level 3 card. Can't just stop.
Anyang.
Yeah, exactly. Anyang. Level 3 Guardian event. It costs 3 resources. Spell and Blessed traded. Has a will and a wild icon. Game text reads, as an additional cost to play Hallow, return a total of 10 Blessed tokens to the token pool from the Chaos Bag or sealed on cards in play. And then you get to remove 1 Doom from any card in play. And it has been tabooed to say remove Hallow from the game.
Yep.
We discussed it. I think this was one of the revealed cards early on because I remember talking about this before now. And I think at that point I was like, pretty good effect. Really hard to do, especially because it's not fast, so you have to do it on your turn. You have to... All 10 of those Blessed tokens have to be there, for you to do this at the start of your turn. And then it's been tabooed to be removed from the game, which I get it. You're removing Doom from anywhere. That's a powerful effect, so we don't want to have that open to shenanigans. But because it requires so much setup, I don't... And it still costs an action? I don't know if that was necessary. I don't know. Seems fine, but I probably won't ever use it.
This is a great card if you coordinate and build for it. This isn't some accidental card that just plays with Blessed.
Well, no, of course not.
Yeah, I mean, and that's kind of part and parcel to that kind of card, right? Where it's okay, well, if your team is going to load the bag up with curses, and then you're going to drop that Tides of Fate,
right,
and swoop them all in one turn, that's pretty good. But, incidentally, if you're just adding your occasional Blessed token to the bag and hoping you get up to 10, and then if you get up to 10, then you play this, that's far weaker tea.
Yeah, I think just because it can remove a Doom, that's such a powerful effect, they almost have to overbalance it. Although in the original version, it was still potentially able to be abused, which is why they tabooed it.
Sure.
Post-taboo, in my Sister Mary Blessed decks, I've definitely gotten up to 10 Blessed pretty often in games. It would just be interesting timing because this cleans those all out of the bag.
Yeah.
So I think this is maybe more of a kind of later scenario play, or certain moments in the scenario where you really need to buy yourself that extra time. And it's towards the end, so you don't really care about cleaning the bag out, or you just have such a strong Bless setup that you're confident you can refill it pretty quickly. Or it's one of those... There are quite a few cards that fall in this category for me over time, which are... I'm looking at this. I've planned out my Iron Man very carefully, and it's right before the last scenario of a campaign, and I know that scenario has a tight Doom clock, and so I cast my eyes towards this.
Are you just talking about Where the Gods Dwell? Because it feels like you're just talking about Where the Gods Dwell.
It might be on my mind.
Yeah, I was going to say, like, this is almost a tech card, but at the same time, it's kind of a little more expensive than what we want to see a tech card be. You know, like 3 experience, 3 resources, and then just the setup cost that is required for it as well. And again, I keep going back to, it's not fast, so you can't play it as soon as the 10th one hits the bag. You have to wait till your turn. You have to use one of your actions. I mean, I can see, Ian, I can agree with you that, like, under very specific circumstances, when your deck is already chugging along as a, you know, well-oiled engine, yeah, this might be something to add, but...
Someone will come up with a way to abuse this.
Oh, yeah.
Still.
Even with the remove from game in there, I'm sure.
Somehow. I've seen it happen. But anyway, let's move on to the next one. Ian, spear us.
I was like, this is great.
Sure, I shall. Holy Spear is a Guardian asset. It's a level 5 card, 4 cost, item, weapon, melee, bless traits. Lots of traits there. And 2 actions. First action is a fight. You get +2 combat and deal +1 damage for this attack. When you initiate this ability, you may release a bless token sealed on Holy Spear. Second action, search the Chaos Bag for 2 bless tokens and seal them on Holy Spear. Fight, you get +4 combat and deal +2 damage for this attack. And this does take up 2 hand slots.
I almost said...
I love this weapon.
Yeah, it's great. I almost said, oh, nice, a big, 5 XP Guardian weapon that Lily can use, because she can't take firearms. But it's so bless-focused, which is awesome. But, I mean, that requires you to build Lily a certain way to really maximize the use of this weapon. But the design's really cool. I like how you're just cycling through those bless tokens. You're never getting rid of them. You're always putting them to use. So, that's cool.
Mm-hmm. So obviously the weapon that I first think to stack this up against is your Time-Worn Brand, right? Where it's got a very similar basic fight action, and then you've got a big thing that you can do. This one's repeatable as opposed to Time-Worn Brand, where it's really juicy and it does a bunch of damage. I've never drawn the cards off of Time-Worn Brand. I'm sure someone has at some point. But yeah, do you think you look at this if you're not doing something else with Bless? Do you think that just consistent damage boost is enough to keep this in your mind?
Not for 5 XP, I don't think.
Yeah, that's fair. That is an ask.
Yeah, I think it's pretty much a Bless, part of a Bless deck. But yeah, if you do have that going, I ran this in Sister Mary towards the end of, or at the very end of Innsmouth and Maelstrom, and it was very good. And I do love these kind of weapons that aren't just like set it and forget it, just fight. It actually has you make some decisions along the way, like when are you going to use the kind of more standard attack, I guess I'll say, and when are you going to use the super spear attack? It almost has that video game feel of like toggling between different kinds of attacks you're going to use.
I almost said this is a trick weapon from Bloodborne.
I mean,
reset the counter.
But you brought me there, Ian.
It's my fault this time.
He walked you up to the doorway. You kicked it in and partied on inside.
Yeah.
All right. Good weapon. Good weapon. So let's move it on then to Ancestral Knowledge. We've talked about this a bit.
Mm-hmm.
So this is a level 3 permanent seeker asset. It's also exceptional. Your deck must include at least 10 skills. Your deck size is increased by 5. Reaction: before drawing your opening hand, attach 5 random non-weakness skills from your deck to this card face down. And then Squiggly Boy, Electrocution Window, exhaust Ancestral Knowledge to draw 1 attached skill.
Yeah. With this one specifically, again, much like what I said earlier, I like the idea of this card more than I actually like this card specifically, but I like what this means kind of like going forward for Arkham player card design, where it's like, yeah, we're going to use permanent and exceptional to create these assets that change the way you think about your deck or allow you to build in a different way. Like that whole, you have to have 10 skills, but you get 5 extra cards. That's interesting. Like, that's really cool. Pulling at...
And I love it when they're permanent.
Yes!
Because if I'm going to restructure the way I'm playing or building, it's nice to know that that thing is going to happen.
Yes.
Especially when that thing is exceptional. I'm looking at you, double.
Yes, exactly. Exactly. The random part is the part that gets me. But at the same time, if you're including 10 skills, they're probably all ones that, you probably have them all. It's Seeker, so they're mostly going to be intellect or will, you know what I mean? Like, you might have a couple of other stuff. And they're probably not going to be test specific if you're expecting to grab random and hoping you get, kind of a smattering. So it's not going to be something like true understanding, and maybe not even deduction. Like, we have better clue acceleration that you may not even need to run deduction. You're going to be getting stuff like Eureka and whatever. So, yeah, I like this one.
Yeah. And I also, I like the fact that it doesn't ask a whole lot of you, because chances are if you care enough about wanting to use this card, you're probably looking at close to 10 skills.
Yeah.
The core set cantrip skills are going to be pretty easy to just slot in if you don't have any better ideas, because it's like, well, all right, it just moves things along. Love this for Amanda, because like being able to just have a wider array of things to put underneath her is pretty good. It's pretty interesting. I haven't used it yet, but it looks cool.
Yeah, I haven't used it either, but I think it definitely has a lot of potential. I mean, just being able to consistently draw a skill when you need it, even though you can't control which skills end up face down. But yeah, I think it'll be pretty easy to work around.
Have we ever, I know I asked this before, but have we ever determined why some things get stacked face down and other things get stacked face up? Like, do you get to look at the skills when you attach them to this?
Yes, that was in the most recent FAQ. So you get to look at the cards that are attached face down to a thing you control.
So why face down? Like, that's something I've never been clear on, is why some things say face down and others say face up. Like,
that is a good question.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's ever been commented on.
No, I don't think so either. But the other thing I was thinking of is, like, is this another, like, 3 aces Mandy? Is this like I got 2 of my aces on Ancestral Knowledge, so perfect, like, sweet, I'm set, Is that something that we're gonna see pop up or reappear in the meta again? I don't know.
We shall see. All right, Nick, I think we're back to you for Ariadne's Twine.
Yeah, Ariadne's Twine. We talked about this one briefly before, but this is a level 3 Seeker asset. Takes up the arcane slot. It has a ritual trait, costs 0 resources, and has 2 intellect icons. And its game text reads: uses. God damn it! 0 secrets. Secrets on Ariadne's Twine can be spent as if they were on any asset controlled by an investigator at your location. Free triggered action. Exhaust Ariadne's Twine. Move 1 secret from an asset you control to your resource pool as a resource, or vice versa. It's great. If you're doing secret play, then this is almost an auto include. I think probably is. It's probably like your first, level 3 buy.
Yeah, I mean, if you don't care about your arcane slot,
right? Yeah, I mean, yeah, I really like this card. I love the versatility, the ability that you can go back and forth is nice. It's not like it's just one way where you're just paying for secrets. You can also suck those secrets out and get cash. Yeah, I like it.
So this was a key card in my Daisy deck that I talked about a couple episodes back. Fantastic way to load secrets on the Grimoire. There's upgraded Old Book of Lore, where that's a great trade, because Old Book of Lore gives you a play action at -2 cost as a part of it. So to trade 1 resource to keep that train rolling is amazing. This card is great, and it's only going to get better with more secrets that we have.
Yeah, there are some cards that come out that are just kind of the... I was trying to think of something better than lubrication, but they kind of lubricate the wheels of certain deck types so they just run smoothly, and like Ariadne's Twine is that for secret decks, like, because that's going to be more and more a thing over time. This is just going to be an important card for those.
Yep. All right. Let's move it on then. Ian, I believe you get your new favorite weapon.
Oh, I'm so happy about this one. I love this card. This is the upgraded 25 automatic. It is a rogue asset. Level 2, cost 4. Has a combat and an agility icon. Item, weapon, firearm, and illicit traits. It is fast. Uses 4 ammo. Action, spend 1 ammo. Fight. If the attacked enemy is exhausted, you get +2 combat and deal +1 damage for this attack. Reaction, after you evade an enemy at your location, perform the above fight ability without spending an action. Hey, look at that. You get a free fight for evading.
So good.
Wow.
Being someone who loves Finn, still my favorite investigator, this is just so amazing for Finn since he gets the free evade anyway. You can just use that free evade to not only have a free evade, but a free fight too, with a +2 combat. That's not bad.
Yeah.
And of course it's fast, so I love fast weapons, so you can just decide when to put them out.
It's only 2 experience, which is amazing. It costs 4, which is less amazing, but I mean, Rogue's going to have the cash for it. If you're looking at this, you're not concerned with paying for it. So, yeah, this is... But it also, like, that also kind of squeezes it out of other investigators who could take level 2 Rogue, like maybe Leo. He might not necessarily look for this weapon. He's also not going to be evading, you know, so... But yeah, in the Rogue family, oh my god, this is money.
Yeah. Yeah. Everything you guys have said. And okay, so Finn likes it, I think. Winnie likes it. Skids likes it. Do you think Trish ever looks at this? Is swinging at 4 enough to make her actually swing?
I think so. I have used it in Trish as well, and to that point, I think it's important also that because it's after you evade an enemy at your location, that doesn't have to be an evade action. It could be, you know, Trish's ability that evades it. It could be a decoy. It could be an event. So that's also helpful for this, that if one of those goes off, you still get to perform that fight ability.
And even if 4 combat isn't a lot to swing with, it's still a free fight action after something that she's already good at. So, I mean, why not? Like, it's free real estate. Just do it.
Good card. Good card. Pretty easy to justify putting that in your deck.
Oh.
Almost like Justify the Means, which is a level 3 rogue skill. It is practiced and cursed. You may commit Justify the Means to any type of test. It has no icons. As an additional cost to commit Justify the Means to a skill test, add curse tokens to the Chaos Bag equal to the test difficulty. This test automatically succeeds.
The roguiest rogue card that ever rogued. Like, future me hates it. Present me loves it. That's the rogue way.
I'm going to regret this later.
Yep. But the nice thing is, like, if you do this, especially like late game in a scenario when it's a clutch test that you need to make, like, you may not even need to, like, you probably won't even touch the bag again. And if you do, like, it's only a couple tests before the end of the game anyway. Like, sure.
Oh, yeah, the old baby boomer approach.
The difference is the bag resets after that. Like, it actually does go back to 0.
I'm not going to be around for these consequences.
Yeah, I mean, this is money in the bank if you need to hit, like, some kind of huge test at the end of a scenario, and who cares? Yeah.
The only downside is if that you're doing other curse play and you don't have enough curses to add to the bag, then you can't play this.
But that's also kind of the fun thing, is that this is a curse card that isn't like, this card doesn't get better with curse play. This card makes curse play a little better, but this is also a curse card that you can throw in any rogue deck and you probably won't be sad to have it. I mean, 3 XP is still something, but it says this test automatically succeeds on it. I think that's worth 3 XP and 2, 3, 4 curse tokens.
Yeah. I mean, we all know how clutch just taking the Chaos Bag out of the equation is. And there are so many ways that we have aforementioned that you can turn curses into good things or mitigate the bad, or like if you're just playing lucky penny, like half of them end up as blesses anyway. So yeah, really good card. Also, Amanda can take this. Level 3 practice.
Oh, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Oh!
She can just have a turn of just being like...
I love it.
She has her Chaos Witch turn where she just walks through and destroys reality in her wake.
Oh, that's so good. Like, because I already take, like, Promise of Power in Amanda.
Oh, yeah, of course.
And this is just like that, card. Just cranked to 11, so I love it.
Fantastic. Another way one might mitigate those curses is with new Lucky Dice.
Yeah.
Or are they, Nick?
Lucky Dice, or are they, is a rogue asset, but we knew that already. Takes up the accessory slot, item, and relic traded. Costs 2 resources, and it's level 3. I forget what the original was level 2, right?
Correct.
Okay. It comes with a will and an agility icon. Don't have to pay extra for those. It's exceptional traded, or keyword exceptional. No, I already said the traits. Reaction: when you reveal a non-curse, non-auto-fail chaos token, add 1 curse token to the chaos bag, ignore the just revealed chaos token, and reveal another one to resolve. If that token has a curse or an auto-fail symbol, return Lucky Dice to your hand. Cannot be ignored or canceled. Okay. So, I mean, it's basically Lucky Dice, but it also now targets curses as well, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, now you're spending curses, adding curses to ignore the token.
Yeah.
Love it.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, it's still Lucky Dice, so, like, what more is there to really say?
Does anyone play with Lucky Dice very often? Like, no. I feel like I look at them a lot, but I rarely ever take them.
I was pretty hot on it early on, especially when I was a big-time Jenny player. Obviously, like, she could spend the resources for the original version, but I haven't used it much since then.
Fair enough. Well, I'll be interested to see. I have yet to do Rogue Blurse play, and I'm certainly feeling a pull towards certain cards, and this Lucky Dice is up there. Excellent. So moving on then to Rite of Equilibrium, possibly the coolest set of Newton's Cradle balls that I've ever seen. Ian.
All right. Rite of Equilibrium is a mystic event. It's a level 5 event, but costs 0. 1 wild icon, spell, blessed, cursed traits. Best of both worlds there. Either choose one, add X curse tokens to the chaos bag to add X bless tokens to the chaos bag, or remove X curse and X bless tokens from the chaos bag to heal X total horror from among cards at your location. Speaking of healing earlier.
So I can say I have actually played this one in my Cursed Agnes deck. Because if you remember, that's using Spirit of Humanity to just keep the bag full of things. So she does accumulate damage, and of course it's Agnes, so horror. Great card. The ability to just fill the bag up with the Bless and Curse tokens is pretty amazing. Just be like, okay, bag full now. But being able to do the other thing is pretty clutch too. And the fact that you can heal X total horror from among cards at your location. Not investigators, not allies, cards. That's pretty powerful.
You get to sew the eye back onto Cherished Keepsake.
Oh, Mr. Potterson.
Yeah, that could be a pretty big number if the bag is full. Bring this into Dim Carcosa or something. And...
I I knew I recognized this card, and yeah, this is the fuel for my Cursed Norman wonders what he's doing in life deck, which I have made it very clear that I'm not a fan of Norman, but when we built those Curse decks rather, that was the one I built, and Rite of Equilibrium was the one that like fueled Paradoxical Covenant, and it fueled the spells that he took. So yeah, I haven't used this card yet, but I want to, and I specifically want to play that Cursed Norman deck at some point. So I mean, I like what it does. Even just that first ability, especially in Mystic, like that's great. And then that second ability is probably because it's a XP5 card, so it was like, well, we need to do more than that. So it gave it the
the one thing I would say is that I don't know if it's quite worth 5 XP to me. It's good. 5 is a lot though.
5 is a lot. The versatility is something, and like you said, heals from cards at your location, so that's big. And the fact that you can play it one of two ways, I don't know.
Yeah. It was fine in Agnes. I feel like the star location for this card is in Carolyn. Because if you can, as Carolyn, like remove a bunch of tokens from the bag and then heal a bunch of horror from a bunch of different things from players at your location and then deal out resources as you do it, like that's a big play.
Can she reliably fill the bag with both?
She's got access to a lot of stuff. She's got access to Guardian, Seeker, and Mystic in like pretty much.
But Seeker,
well, in a lot of permutations.
Seeker has less level 0 curse stuff than you think. As I learned building that Norman deck I just talked about. Guardian has no curse play, so it would just be Mystic. And she can't take above level 0. God, I forget. Anyway, that's a discussion for a different time. This would be fun to play at Carolyn, though.
She can take, I think, if I'm remembering correctly, up to 15 level 0 Mystic and or Seeker cards.
Right, yeah. And then it's heals horror is what opens it up for her. So I don't know how many level 0 Mystic cards there are that add curses, but there's only like 2 in Seeker, and one of them is the Grimoire or whatever it's called that levels up, which she can't take.
Really? Is Deep Knowledge the only other one in level 0?
I think so. I think everything else from Seeker costs 1 or more experience. At least that's what it was when I built that Norman deck, because I was like, oh, I'll do Norman because he adds a bunch of curses, and it turns out no, he can't because he's a Mystic. So
yeah. Well, I mean, if anything else, Mystic cards like this.
Yes.
And I think a fair few of the level 0 ones do add both, so it's potential. I don't know. I'll let you know if I ever get around to it. The super heal. All right, so then moving on to Jacob Morrison, the Coast Guard captain. He is a level 3 survivor asset, 3 cost, has a wild icon, ally, and blessed traded. Jacob Morrison does not ready during the upkeep phase. Reaction: when you would fail a skill test, exhaust Jacob Morrison, you get +2 skill value for that test. And reaction: after a blessed token is revealed from the Chaos Bag during a skill test you are performing, ready Jacob.
Hey, you guys like Lucky?
Yep. Yeah. It's pretty great. I think, I don't know, +2 to any skill when you would fail, because that's when it's important to get the skill boost. I don't know if you guys know that. When you would fail.
Yeah, and it's nice that it's like, even if you're gonna fail anyway, but if it's one of those tests that you fail by a certain amount, you can still get the boost to kind of make it hurt a little bit less. Yeah, but yeah, more than often. What's the survivor ally that I've been using a ton that lets you get a +1 to a test? If
Granny Orn?
Granny Orn, yep. So this is a little bit like a souped-up Granny Orn in some ways. I know it's not a perfect comparison, but yeah. So the only tricky part is the fact that he only readies from blessed tokens being revealed, and it has to be a skill test you perform. I think that's the really tricky part.
So
that's narrow.
I mean, solo.
Yeah, solo. Fine.
No one else is taking them tests.
In there. Yeah,
but Survivor has a lot of tools to add blessed like 3 or 4 blessed tokens quickly to the bag. You know what I mean? And you want more than 3 or 4 in there if you're running Jacob, but I mean, he's worth it if you are. So.
Yeah, I mean, you've got ways, and like just the combination of like Jacob and Favor of the Sun, so you can and then Ancient Covenant, like those 3 cards. So you've got you've got Ancient Covenant. You trigger it after you use Favor of the Sun. You've readied Jacob, and then Jacob's ready. You've already auto passed a test essentially, and now you've got Lucky on command. Yep. Yeah, I mean that's cool.
Well, there's also Keep Faith, which isn't that like a 3 resource cost or 2 resource costs or whatever, and it adds 3 or 4 bless tokens to the bag, right?
2 cost adds 4.
Yeah. Oh wow, yeah. I mean, there's definitely ways to keep him going, but you have to commit to it. I think is the thing. Like, you're not gonna throw Jacob in a deck and then just have 2 copies of Keep Faith. Like, I think you need more bless play to really make use of him.
I'd say that's accurate.
Yep.
Especially if you're playing with other people,
Oh, yeah.
because I don't know what your guys' experience with Blurs is with a team, but like, oh man, if you're trying to draw specific tokens, sure as shit, everyone else is finding them faster than you do.
Yeah. Or you can just be Ashcan and use his ability to ready Jacob if you want.
Oh, and Duke cries in
Move
the corner.
over, Duke.
All right. So moving on then to, is it me? No, I just did. I just went. Nick.
Oh yeah.
We've seen this card before.
Yeah, Shrine of the Moirai. Shrine of the Moirai. Survivor event. If I say it enough times, it'll make sense. Fortune, Blessed, and Curse traded. We've seen that before. It costs 1 resource, but it's 3 XP. And it comes with a Will, Intellect, and Agility icon, 1 of each. Attached to your location, uses 3 offerings. God fucking damn. Attached location gains free triggered action. Draw the top card of the encounter deck, exhaust Shrine of the Moirai, and spend 1 offering. Return up to 2 cards with a total combined level of 5 or less from your discard pile to your hand. Card designed by the Moirai at Arkham Knights 2019. So yeah, we have the play test or the beta versions of these cards, or this card rather, well, and others.
I don't feel like this one changed much from its beta.
Yeah, I don't remember what the original was like. It's right over there in my box. I could open it up and look, but I can't be bothered. But I mean, it's, yeah, sure. Like, drawing the top card of the encounter deck is like, that's an ask, you know?
Yeah.
That's not a cheap thing to do. But like, this is, you want recursion. Oh, this is recursion. The amount of cards that recur leveled up cards of any class, I don't think there's any. Like, Resourceful is Survivor only, but is it any Survivor? Is it any level? I think it is.
Yeah, it's any level.
And Scrounge is any class, but level 0 only. So I think this is the only one that does, like, anything.
Yeah, it's just free for all.
Yeah, so this is
it's
pretty big.
It's a really cool effect. The thing that gives me pause is that it's going to sit on a specific location.
Yeah,
it's not like it follows you around and you get to use it. You've got to be at this location in order to do it.
Yeah.
Which is interesting.
It's almost like you play it in the trap suite, but it's not a trap. But you play it in those suite of cards that kind of encourage you to stay at one location. And it's such a shame that Min can't take this. Because if anyone was ever built to stay at one location...
Well, and... okay, but the other side of that coin, the thing that makes that cool, is that the location gains the ability. So anyone at that location can potentially use it.
True, but it exhausts, so it's still only once around.
Yes, that's true. But at least it adds more versatility to people, like, moving in and around.
Yeah, that's true.
And, like, you don't necessarily have to be camped in order to enjoy this.
Is there any way to cheat this and get it to fire more than once around? Is there any... Does...
Ash
can? Yeah, okay. I was trying to think, but yeah, like, even if it attaches to a location, he still controls it.
Mm-hmm.
Other than him?
I think that's accurate.
That's it, though. I can't...
Yeah, I mean, that ready assets, there are so few cards that
there's,
ready
like,
assets.
Galvanize, but that's Guardian only. Yeah, interesting. So, yeah, I mean...
Well, the thing is, because this is an event, and Ashcan is an asset.
Ah!
Yeah.
Oh, you're correct.
That's so... I keep forgetting that events are the ones that attach. Like, that's so weird to me, but... Okay. So, no, there isn't a way to cheat this. Yet.
Not yet.
Yeah.
Someone may find
It'll
it.
be on the Taboo FAQ in, 2023 or whatever.
That's right. Before I get to use it. as is my want. All right, well that wraps up the player cards for the Innsmouth Conspiracy cycle, yeah?
Yep.
So quick retrospective on the player cards. What do you guys kind of think of just overall thoughts on what this cycle added to the pool?
A lot of Bless and Curse, which overall I think is really fun and exciting, bringing that new archetype and also developing it throughout the course of the campaign, which was awesome. But also some really good tools that aren't necessarily Bless or Curse use either. I think I'm gonna shoot from the hip here and say that Innsmouth has introduced more interesting choices among player cards, as far as like they're not just like, windmill slam, resolve the effect and go. Like each card, there's more cards in this cycle that have an interesting choice baked into them than any other cycle.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'd say that's accurate.
Yeah, definitely Bless and Curse loom large in my mind, and I'm a big fan of the mechanic. I think it's really added a lot to the game, like exploring those different elements and making the chaos bag math more complicated. So overall, I think it's a really good cycle for player cards. I think because they had to go in so heavy on it, because we got new tokens, they kind of needed to make sure that they go crazy with Bless and Curse effects. Maybe we got less variety of effects for that reason, just in terms of we didn't get as much non-Bless Curse stuff as we would have normally, of course. But I still think it was worth it, and I think it was a good cycle of player cards.
Yep. Fully agree. And I really hope that this is kind of the new model for, hey, we're introducing a new mechanic, let's develop it during this cycle. Just so much focus, and with the class and deck building restrictions or abilities, I guess, for investigators, it offers just such a cool puzzle for like, okay, if I want to play Bless/Curse in this investigator, depending on the investigator you're looking at, that could look several different ways.
Yeah.
Which I think is an accomplishment.
I think, and we've talked about this before, but comparing how they did Bless and Curse to how they did Tarot, like, I will always take, like, yeah, there's more cards in Innsmouth that won't get used unless you're specifically building to use them. But I think that's an okay trade-off to then be like, okay, we did Bless and Curse, it's fully developed, we don't have to touch it again for, however long, 3-4 cycles,
Mm-hmm. Or until the return cycle, I guess.
Or that. Whereas, like...
It's probably when it's right.
Yeah, whereas, like, Tarot, I mean, we've talked about it, so I don't need to rehash it, but you get what I'm saying.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. All right. Well, let's then move on to talking about the scenario itself. So, spoiler alert, we're bringing Innsmouth Conspiracy home tonight, but not, to meet our parents, not in the bad way. So, Ian, I don't know where I was going with that. Joke.exe has failed. Stop, yes. Ian, these show notes are beautiful. You want to walk us through the scenario?
Sure. So the story, obviously this is the conclusion of the whole cycle, and therefore the conclusion of the story. The story itself is pretty straightforward, nothing too tricky. We're back in the present day for the last time, and we've figured out that the only way to stop the Order of Dagon's master plan is to dive into the ocean and go down all the way to the bottom to find the City of the Deep Ones and stop this little ritual and plans that are trying to flood the earth once and for all. So that's the story, the deep dive. And so the setup is really first. You kind of start with certain keys already if you've met certain conditions. So this is where all the things you've done in the campaign really play out. So if you got the key or the map or dispatch the guardian or the gateway recognizes you, then you start with keys. But if you don't meet those conditions, then instead those keys are going to kind of go in a pool and you'll have to find them through your usual means of getting clues, which is getting keys, which is getting clues off those locations and then grabbing the keys.
Which is primarily consists of walking into the underground river and being really disappointed.
Yep. And then, kind of a fun part. I always love story assets. Kind of a fun part at the beginning, though, is the diving suits. What did you guys think about the diving suits?
I like the idea of it. Innsmouth deals out damage far too quickly for that to ever have been used for me. At least in the 2 to 3 plays that I've done.
Yeah,
it's cool.
I found it was mostly kind of because as it's like a 3 health soak, so I found, and then when any amount of damage is placed on you, you place one on that damage, so that's helpful. The other thing it lets you do is ignore the forced ability on the agenda, which is basically the drowning piece. Like if you're, I actually can't remember off the top of my head because it's been used so much, whether it's at the start of your turn or end of your turn, being at a fully flooded. So
it's if you start your turn.
Yeah, so that obviously helps, and that does come up. I did find in most of my plays, though, it wasn't a huge issue. I was able to get through this first part of the scenario without too much trouble, so I think that's why the diving suit didn't feel as pivotal to me. But it is kind of funny thinking story-wise, though, like if you're doing this without a diving suit. How is this happening? How long can they hold their breath?
It's pretty damned impressive, I must say.
Yeah.
I guess we're doing the like Sonic thing and catching the bubbles as they float by.
Yeah, that's scientifically accurate. I think if you play the scenario without a diving suit, you actually have to hold your breath until you get to an area there. That's how it works.
I approve.
So that's the diving suits and the keys. This is one of those scenarios where there's kind of a distinct first part and second part. The first part's pretty straightforward. Just grab enough keys and then you can advance. The second part is really the meat of the scenario where it gets more interesting. So the old map goes away. It blows up into a whole new map, which is a much bigger map. And this map also has the layer of both Dagon and the layer of Hydra. But I think the really interesting part about this map that really sticks out to me is the way it actually changes depending on player count.
We've never had a scaling map before.
Yeah, I kind of hope we get this more often, especially for like final scenarios. There have been some exceptions, but a lot of the final scenarios can tend to be some bigger maps and sometimes some tight doom clocks. And it's not a great combination for lower player counts in solo, but I like how this just like scoops those locations off the map. And hey, smaller map for less players, that makes sense.
Yeah, I'm a big fan. I have only played it in 2-player thus far, but I don't know. It was kind of cool to see that, you know, a big part of what makes solo or low player counts, I guess, more difficult was kind of addressed there.
And then so this second part of the scenario is, the first part was about getting keys. The second part is really about unflooding the locations, which you can either do through, there are some special sanctum locations that you put keys on, or you can spend clues when you're at one of the special Dagon or Hydra layers. And basically to win at least the kind of vanilla basic ending is to just unflood every location. So kind of a different type of win condition than we've seen in other final scenarios, I think. Like, sometimes it's about beating a big boss. Often it's just about escaping, finding an exit and escaping. But this one is about kind of like whacking the moles and removing these tokens from these locations.
Yep. And it feels so appropriate for Innsmouth. Flooding has been besetting us our entire time through. It definitely makes sense that the player's final revenge is just drying the whole thing out.
And this since it's the final scenario, we do get kind of the big great old ones, which we have gotten in other final scenarios. This time we get 2 for the price of 1. We get the Dagon and Hydra double pack.
Right.
They can
His and
both
hers.
They can both wake up and wander around. I think it was pretty cool that some of the other old ones that we've experienced are kind of more ever present. Like Azathoth kind of sits out of play and does stuff. Hastor, depending on what version you get, but these felt like more just straight ahead monsters, which I think makes sense for what they are.
And okay, so we have to talk about, and we probably talked about this a little because we saw Dagon in Lair of Dagon. Mm-hmm. The art of just the art on the front and back, with the only difference being the eye opening. So like it just so perfectly encapsulates that moment in the monster movie where you're like sneaking around and the monster is ostensibly like fast asleep, and then you have just that silent moment where the only thing that moves is the eye opening, and just that horror of what that is about to unleash on you dawns, and like you get that all just from flipping card art. Loved it.
I didn't even realize that. I'm gonna have to go back and look at those. That's awesome.
Yeah.
They're pretty strong, obviously, as enemies, but because the win condition is usually just unflooding the locations, I didn't feel like I interacted with them that much in my plays, although there was my kind of Amanda Sister Mary campaign, which they were doing so well in this campaign, but yet they're the only one of all my campaigns that failed in Maelstrom. They got Dagon Hydra tag teamed.
Uh-oh.
Yeah.
Yeah, when you start breaking into the layers, it can be a little intense. Right? Or am I confusing that with Dagon's lair from Lair of Dagon?
No, it is. They each... I mean, Dagon can either be awake or asleep, but Hydra starts out asleep. But essentially, while you're there, you kind of need to go in there and scoop things and spend clues when they're asleep, or they wake up and you kind of need to wait for them to leave so you can sneak into their lair, which makes sense.
That's right.
I think.
Yeah.
But I think the meat of really what I think is interesting to talk about, though, is because I feel like it's a fairly straightforward scenario, and I keep calling it the vanilla version. But there are actually 2 other kind of alternate win conditions or additional win conditions, and it all hinges on flashback 14. And if you get that flashback, then you kind of find out that the Agent Harper had this kind of hidden agenda to grab these treasures from this ancient city. And
it's always about money, isn't it?
Yep, and I think I remember people in the Discord saying there's always something shady with the story ally characters. Yep, turns out there was.
I've been thinking that shit ever since Alcaron hurt me. It's just, you gotta consider it.
Is that a Lord of the Rings
what is
thing?
it with FFG's cooperative LCGs and giving us trust issues? Has there ever been one that's just been like a straight up? I don't know. I need to analyze. Yeah, I guess so. That's true.
Armitage is just straight bro.
Warren and what's the other guy? Francis. Like they're
they all didn't betray you unless you count getting sacrificed, the betrayal of some kind.
How dare you? Do you know what this has done to me?
Dunwich didn't have enough story text to get a betrayal in there. Like,
true.
It was bare bones. So, you know.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it's just part of the genre too, of
Yeah.
like not being able to trust. Who can you trust? Yeah, so if you get this flashback 14, you can decide whether to help Agent Harper get these treasures or defy her and kind of go off book, off mission. But I think the interesting thing is this flashback is only attainable if you get all 7 keys on the locations, which means you need to have at least, I kind of did some of the math, you need to have at least 3 of the starting keys, which you need at least 3 of these kind of preconditions met before you even play the scenario. And some of them are a little easier to get than others, but because of the way Innsmouth works, sometimes you just don't get the keys you need. The keys don't end up on locations that are easy to get to in certain scenarios. Like, I won't go through all the exact conditions because I think that would take forever. But I think the interesting part is, what do you guys think about the fact that there's this... It's kind of a notable chunk, both in terms of story and mechanics, that are part of Maelstrom that you just might not see. Like, I ran 4 or 5 campaigns through Innsmouth, and in none of them did I get to this flashback 14.
Oh, really?
Yep. Not a single one.
I suppose I'm only 1 for 3. Yeah, it's kind of the secret level, right?
Yep.
I suppose it's probably this campaign's turn back time. Which, is cool. I'm trying to remember, do you happen to know which preconditions you need? Because there are some that I would be more angry about than others. Like, if you need to kill the mob, that I've only managed to do once, and it's really hard.
Yeah, I guess I can go over it real quick. So the key and the map are the easiest. You just need a red key or black key and light in the fog, which just are on certain locations. I think the tougher ones are the Guardian Dispatched, and Gateway Recognizes You, because those 2 are kind of 2-for-1s. You have to meet 2 conditions in 2 different scenarios. So the Guardian Dispatch, you need to kill the Terror of Devil Reef, and you have to have the life cycle of a Deep One recorded, which comes up in Light in the Fog. And then the Gateway Recognizes You. You have to defeat the Gatekeeper in Lair of Dagon, and you have to have one of the story assets from Devil Reef.
Oh, that's, well, I mean, my current campaign isn't getting that, so that's fun.
Right? Yeah, I think...
Yeah, that's not nothing.
Yeah, I think it's one of those things where, obviously in repeat plays, now that I know exactly what you need to get, you can kind of work for that. But I've still had, I think I played 1 or 2 campaigns after I knew this, and tried to get some of these, and sometimes it just happens, like, okay, you really need to wrap up a scenario and you can't get to that black key and Light in the Fog or something.
Right. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but didn't at some point we hear Max say that, like, that's kind of a cool thing about Innsmouth, is that every time you might get different flashbacks, and so it's almost like it's a different story every time?
I think so.
That, like, to me, that makes me think, like, you don't need to get all the flashbacks, because you're getting a complete story regardless of how many you get in each. But obviously that's not the case, because you can't get the last one, you can't get the epilogue unless you get all the flashbacks. So, like...
The cue the meme. So that was a fucking...
Yeah.
Yeah. I honestly kind of feel kind of torn about it. Like, on the one hand, like, thematically, I like the idea of, and we'll see this when we talk about the epilogue too, that because you didn't get certain memories back, you just don't know this stuff is happening. Like, you could play through and never know that Agent Harper has this hidden agenda, and you're just kind of going along unawares. But on the other hand, from a gameplay perspective, because Maelstrom feels so straightforward in some ways and just the regular basic version, not having access to these other additional conditions, it almost feels like you're missing something too much in some cases.
Like, I haven't played it yet, but I imagine that, like, you know, you get halfway through the game and you're like, is this it? Is there some? Did we miss something? You know, is there something else going on? No, don't read that part because it said to skip that. You know, but gosh, I feel like we're missing something.
You have your resident Arkham police like slapping your hand because you turned to the wrong page.
Yeah, I did have this moment because this extra mission are represented by these extra act cards at the end. And when you beat the scenario in regular version, it says, oh, if there are no other act cards in play, something like that, then you advance. And I was sitting there like, wait, what other act cards? Did I miss something? How did this happen?
Yeah, exactly.
And so it's one of those Arkham moments where you're just like looking back through the campaign guide like 5 times trying to figure out where it went wrong.
So you compared it to Turn Back Time, which I have done now. As I mentioned before, I actually went through and...
Oh, I'm sorry.
And yeah, and so that's the thing is, like, I always felt like, oh, God, there's this facet of the campaign that I'm missing out on. You know, there's this whole scenario, well, like half a scenario, essentially, that it's like, but, God, it's the capstone of the campaign. Like, God, so I'm going to make sure I do it. And in the last scenario, I even cheated to make sure that I got there and did it. And then I played it, I was like, God, I cheated for this? This is terrible. And it was...
It cheated to just get just cold cocked by another one.
Like, right away. So I guess I'm kind of saying that, like, I appreciate that at least it's not another hidden scenario that is just bonkers hard. But at the same time, it is a little weird that it is cutting out so much I shouldn't say so much content because it's really not a lot. It's a couple extra acts and the flashback and the epilogue and all that. But it's
yeah, but from a story perspective,
right,
it's
exactly
the truth.
Yeah.
Like you're playing this conspiracy, the kind of mystery piece where you're piecing together, and like that's the conclusion it's all ultimately leading you to. So yeah, I mean, not hitting that, you have a right to feel a little bad about it, I think.
Yeah,
a bit of salt is warranted.
I think part of what played into it too, maybe for me, is being such a evade heavy style of play that I use. Some of these, like the Guardian Dispatch, rely on you killing the Terror of Devil Reef. The Gateway one relies on you killing the Gatekeeper, which are both things I just didn't do in all of my campaigns because I just tend to evade those things and move on. Right. So for certain styles of play, I think the extra kind of missions are...
Oh, right. So agility is the dump stat. Okay, I heard you.
No, I'm not saying that. It's still willpower. I think these extra acts, the extra missions, are kind of interesting mechanically. Like helping Agent Harper, you have to get all the clues off the layers in the vault, so it's like you're kind of stealing the treasures. But if you defy Agent Harper, you have to deal damage to Dagon and Hydra, which, okay, that's pretty straightforward, but like I said earlier, sometimes it feels like certain plays you don't really interact with the Dagon and Hydra much, and that one kind of forces you to step up to them and fight.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I think I might need to see how I feel about it in like a year when I've gotten to play through it more, and maybe I will have more consistently like gotten the Flashback 14.
So I know it's jumping the gun a little bit because we've got 2 before this one, but in Iron Man terms, are we going 14 memories? Like, are we going epilogue? I think we kind of have to, don't we?
I think so, right? Don't we always shoot the moon?
Well, I mean,
shoot for the moon?
TFA, we didn't go Turn Back Time.
That's true.
And
that's true.
But you know, last year you guys didn't do the 5 scenario win in TCU. So there's like a happy medium that we try to hit with Iron Man. I'm just wondering, like, is that because a couple of this...
We're not overachievers, we're not underachievers, we're just cheaters.
Well, there's a couple of resolutions that are like the investigators win? ? And I would assume that we want to avoid those, but I guess I don't know. Like, are we going for the full epilogue? That'd be interesting to see what happens.
I think we definitely try for it. The kind of strength but also weakness sometimes of Innsmouth is the variability is great with keys and locations, which adds a lot of variety, but on the other hand sometimes you don't have total control over where everything plays out. Although maybe in 4-player you're just able to cover more ground, so it might be easier to grab all those memories.
I mean, maybe, but also like this, there's so many fail states, when you're looking at, you need everything to get this last bit. And if you miss one of those things, so if just even in 4-player, if one of them fucks up, then it's like, all right, well, we tried.
It's gonna be a bummer, yes.
Oh well.
Yeah, the thing about, we'll go back to the resolutions in a second, but since we're talking about the epilogue, I think I do like the epilogue overall. It's kind of funny, this, like, if you don't have all the memories, you just... Because this is just all story implication. Mm-hmm. Obviously, it's the end, so they can't really hit you with a mechanical thing. But it's either, everything's fine, we stopped it, but only if you have all 14 memories, it gives you this truth of... Actually, this was just only one of the Deep One cities, and there's, like, dozens around the world. That would be I could totally see that as like an end of a movie.
Yeah, I mean, here's the thing: is like, I don't know how you feel from your own character perspective or whatever, but it felt like the perfect little bomb to drop at the end of an Innsmouth campaign. Much like the actual Shadow over Innsmouth story that drops that bomb on you at the end. It just feels very, very in theme for Lovecraft. To be like, oh god, we got out. All right, everything's fine. Except.
Yep. The resolutions, there was so you can either kind of get the basic ending, you stop the plot of the baddies. You can have the failure, which is the Deep Ones flood the entire Earth and everyone dies. So it's kind of the easy binary. And then there's all these variations, like you can help Agent Harper or defy her and stop the ritual. So you kind of still win because the ritual stops, but you choose whether to help Agent Harper or not. But then the interesting ones are you can help Agent Harper get the riches or kind of destroy everything. But then you don't stop the ritual. So... that's kind of when you get the question mark win, where it's like they don't fully flood the Earth, but I think it says they have fled part of the continent or something. So those are kind of interesting that you story-wise focused on Agent Harper's mission and then it just totally didn't do the thing you were there to do. It happens. Were there any notable cards that stuck out to you from this one?
The bosses are pretty up there. I do like the lieutenant minions. The art on what is it? Is it just Aquatic Monstrosity? It's the one that looks like a psychotic orca. Like fuel.
Yeah, I think it's something monstrosity.
I remember sleeving that. I was not a fan of that one.
Treacherous Depths was a treachery that stuck out to me because it's one of those discard assets ones, which whenever those type of effects pop up, this one is based off the Shroud of the location, I think, then it can be a bad time. It can be a really bad time. I think that might have played a part in having Sister Mary and Amanda lose, I think, if I remember right. Because Sister Mary had a pretty full kit of assets out, and I drew multiple of those, which was not great.
As you do.
One final thing before we move into kind of final thoughts on the cycle as a whole. What did you think about the difficulty of this one? Because I think that's the other discussion point I've seen about Maelstrom.
It didn't bother me. Challenge, personally, is not something that I need to enjoy a scenario. Often, good interactive challenge will make a scenario for me, but I thought the setting was cool. yeah, it hit all the right. I guess it hit all the right beats for me for the finale of this campaign. It didn't bother me that this one was probably, dare we say, the easiest final scenario. Is that okay?
I would definitely agree. Out of all the final scenarios, this is the easiest one. Because I mentioned out of all my campaigns, only one failed out of like 5 or 6, which is not bragging to me. That just shows that it's on the easier side, because I do not have anywhere near that kind of win rate for other end of cycle scenarios.
Nope.
Usually it's much less than that. So yeah,
I suppose it kind of does. You think it owes the difficulty to kind of what we were talking about earlier, where a lot of the stuff comes from how well you've done up to this point, and that itself is kind of hard.
Yeah, I think so. I think the Innsmouth difficulty pops up in other scenarios, and by the time you get to this one, you kind of have some of that success already built into it, like starting with some of the keys you need, those kind of things. And I think some of also the difficulty is baked into Flashback 14. Like, if you only have one act to complete at the end, that's pretty straightforward. But if you have to do these extra ones for Agent Harper, that adds like another objective you have to complete if you want to do both.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Now, again, I haven't played it, but based off of your guys' descriptions and also based off of what I saw just from going through the campaign guide, setting up the show notes, this seems very similar, and I'm not saying that in a bad way, it's just an observation. Very similar to maybe like Weaver of Cosmos, where it's like I'm seeing multiple similarities where it's like you start with a simple map and then it blows up to a large map, and things get more complicated in that second bit, but it's not necessarily all that much more difficult. You know what I mean? Like Weaver, I've considered Weaver to be generally on the easier side as well for end of campaign scenarios. Of course, I often think of Before the Black Throne as being like the one where I'm like, really? Does it have to be this punishing?
It's pretty intense.
But is that an apt, like, kind of like same difficulty, same style between those two, between this and Weaver of Cosmos? Or am I just whistling Dixie?
I think it's
over
probably
here?
it's a pretty fair comparison, I'd say.
Don't know if that added to the discussion at all, but I wanted to say something.
It does. Like, I'm always interested at how these end of scenarios are structured. Like, some of them you tend to use random locations, like finding them.
Yeah.
Like Lost in Time and Space does. Black Throne does. Mm-hmm. And so that adds a little bit to the difficulty, or at least the variability of having to find those.
Right.
And then on the other hand, you have something like Dim Carcosa, which is a set map, but it's so small that it makes things difficult sometimes, especially in solo or 2-player. Whereas this is a bigger map. It scales depending on player count, but I think that was part of it. It's a static map, I mean, the locations are kind of jumbled, but in terms of where the layers are going to be in the sanctums, that kind of thing. But it's also big enough that you can kind of maneuver around. I don't know. I think those are kind of... It didn't have a lot of encounter... Like, sometimes there's some really punishing encounter cards in final scenarios, and I don't feel like there were any that were, like, too harsh.
Sure.
I don't know. Not that I remember. But I know some discussion has been, is it too easy? But I think I'm kind of similar to Sean, where I'm kind of fine with that. Like, I'm fine having a little breathe. Like, most end of campaign scenarios, you're just like having high blood pressure, and it's tight to the very end. And this is more like kind of showing what you can do at the very end of a campaign.
Yes, give me 10 more Weavers of the Cosmos before I get another goddamn Where the Gods Dwell.
I'm guessing it is, but is Deep One Assault in this scenario?
Yeah.
I'm trying to remember. I'm pretty sure it is. It has to be, but I don't remember offhand.
Don't like that.
That's like the defining encounter
we don't.
card.
That's
of Innsmouth.
it is. It has
For real.
ended more scenarios for me than I think anything else. So yeah, it's fuck that.
All right, so I guess this is the end of Innsmouth Conspiracy. So final thoughts on the cycle. Where does it rank for you? Kind of roughly, where does it rank for you think, now that we've had the whole thing?
I think it did super well. It's in the top half for me for sure. I think I need a few more plays through it to really, really feel like I get it as much as I'm ever going to get a campaign. But that said, it's got some really cool stuff going on. I think that there's not a dip in this campaign like there are in some other ones, where I don't think there's a single scenario in this campaign where when I'm setting it up, I'm like, all right, I gotta do this one again. I'm always excited for the next one.
I mean, it definitely doesn't have the, like, I identified pretty early on, and I think we've only seen it as time has gone on, but, like, the fourth scenario, like, problem, like, the fourth scenario of the campaign being a problem. Innsmouth didn't really have that. Innsmouth had it. The first scenario is a problem, in my opinion. Pit of Despair, I still enjoy it, but like you got to hit the ground running in that scenario. And a lot of it is unfortunately left up to chance, which isn't great either. But it's still fun. And like I haven't completed any campaigns, obviously, because I haven't made it this far yet. But I've actually played the first half of this campaign 3 or 4 times, which is a lot for me at this point. Like when a cycle finishes, for me to have played the first half of it more than twice is saying a lot. So Innsmouth
it's a ringing endorsement.
Yeah, it's it actually is. It's hitting all the right notes for me. I'm really enjoying it. The story's really engaging, and the scenarios are unique enough, not only in like within the campaign, but also in Arkham itself, that I'm still excited to play them. Like we got boats, we got cars. We have a 15 location scenario that you're running from everything. Like there's very little, in my opinion, to complain about in this campaign, other than the randomness of Pit of Despair and the fucking Deep One Assault. Everything else has been baller. So,
and I'll kind of add on to what you said in that I do think, probably Pit of Despair is the closest that it comes to a dip.
Sure.
So at least it's, worst first, get it out of the way.
Yeah.
I do kind of wish that the opening scenarios didn't consistently feel so punishing, because that in conjunction with the fact that I feel like Innsmouth kind of trickles XP for the first couple scenarios, and then like I think by Devil Reef you really start having access to some more victory points. It can feel pretty bad in the first couple scenarios if you do not get lucky. Or if you're just bad. I mean, I suppose I could always peek in the window of that being the explanation.
Yeah, I think similarly to you guys, this one rates pretty high for me. Maybe in the top 3. Definitely want to spend more time with it, especially seeing if I can get Flashback 14 more often. I don't know exactly how to rank it, though, because it's interesting. I feel like Innsmouth is by far the most consistent scenario, like you guys mentioned. Like it's just each scenario is kind of is strong and interesting, and it keeps my attention. And there's none that I really dislike. On the other hand, I think some of the other cycles have these really high scenarios that I just love, that are my favorites, like Search for Gaddath and Threads of Fate. Yeah. Which is not to say that Innsmouth doesn't have strong scenarios. It's just one of those things. People have favorite scenarios, and I didn't have any in this scenario that just stand out to me as like this is an all-time favorite in the cycle, rather. Which is not to say that it's not a good cycle. Again, it's really high up there for me. I just trying to think about how I feel about it.
Yeah, it's like other campaigns have a rating variance of like out of 10, like 5 to 9, and Innsmouth's rating variance is like 7 to 8.
Right.
You know, it's just it's just more consistent.
What do you guys think about the execution and the overall result of like the dual timeline flashback situation? Did you end up satisfied with it? Is it just fun to play around with the first time? Do you think there's any kind of lasting legs to it once you know what's happening?
It didn't really add anything to the experience for me, and I kind of like. At first, it was honestly a little annoying because of the XP thing. It's like, well, I can't spend it now. Like, what's the and then I do setup of the next scenario. I'm like, oh wait, no, now I can spend it. Like, it ended up not being as impactful as it seemed at first. I mean, it was fun to play with that, just like, you know, the unreliable narrator of Carcosa, the journal entry bit in TFA. Like, it's always fun to have that different way to present the narrative, but it didn't make any lasting impact on me.
Yeah, that's my biggest complaint, is that it got really fiddly with, okay, don't spend XP now, and make sure these cards are out of your deck, and, like, I guess from, like, a flash-forward, flash-back perspective, wouldn't it make sense that all the flashbacks would be played at level 0, and that, I mean, I don't know, it kind of makes sense when you think about, like, okay, your knowledge base was wiped clean, you know, prior to the events of Pit of Despair, but I don't know. That's my one complaint, is that it got a little fiddly with the bookkeeping side of the campaign.
I mean, if the campaign made me tear apart my deck and rebuild it after every scenario, I would be fucking pissed. And I don't think I would, because that's my least favorite part of Arkham, is having to change those decks around all the time. Even though that would have been more like, oh, well, that's accurate to the timeline, I'd be like, nope, not doing it. So.
Yeah, I think I'm mostly still just a little bit confused about the timeline until I sit down and map it out. But overall, yeah, I like the idea behind it. I think it played into, like, the whole flashbacks thing was a pretty cool mechanic. I enjoyed that. I'm kind of hoping in the return version, if we do get a return version, that they play a little bit more with, because I think the cool potential of that is things you do in the past could potentially impact what happens in the future at that same location, you know, when you're at the Order again or the Lighthouse. So it'd be cool if that gets played with a little bit more, like certain enemies that maybe if you defeat them in the past, they don't show up in the present, or leaving items behind. I don't know. I just want to play with the timeline a little bit more and really explore that.
You want to break the timeline.
Yes.
Guys, found Kang. Kang. He's here.
I want the nemesis system from Shadow of War to be so that the enemy, when I beat an enemy in the past, it shows up in the present. It's like, you took my eye! I'll get you for what you did to my eye! Yeah, that's what I want.
And then he doesn't have
and he doesn't have his eye, yeah. Yeah. You get it. I don't know.
Fantastic. It seems as good a place as any to end it. Innsmouth, good. Very, very much looking forward to Edge of the Earth. Yeah. Fantastic. Well, guys, let's round this out with a little bit of Tentacle time. Nick, what's been grabbing you?
As Sean, you know, and our other Bloodborne playing friends know, I am now
we just call them friends.
Well, yeah, that's true. But there's a difference, because Ian didn't know. I am now a platinum hunter. I have platinum. I have platinumed Bloodborne. And it was kind of tough, because after I did that, the next thing I wanted to do was just play more Bloodborne.
Ain't that always the way?
It's so shocking how going through the Chalice dungeons, the section of the game that I lambasted and swore off of during my first 3 playthroughs of the game, I'm like, they're terrible, don't ever want to do them, to the point where on my old main character, I sold all my chalice materials because I'm like, I'm never doing this garbage. Sell it. Give me more blood echoes. Let me buy more blood vial. That sort of thing. Now I'm actually like being on the other side of it and having done the necessary ones. I'm like, that was actually fun. Like it was enjoyable because it was fresh, it was new, and it was I was just a little over level for them, like not a lot, but just enough to where I wasn't dying every time I walked around a corner. And so that was really exciting. So then I was like, well, I don't want to. I do want to play more Bloodborne, but I don't want to give in to that right now. Instead, I want to capitalize on this momentum, and so I reinstalled Dark Souls. And now I am working on platinuming Dark Souls. Wow. So I started a new game. I should have just ran with my original character, but I wanted to do something totally new. And I kind of unlocked easy mode because the first Black Knight in the Undead Burg, the one who's at the end of that narrow hallway and is probably responsible for like 80% of deaths in the first hour of the game. Well, I killed him, because, I played it before, so I have it. But anyway, I killed him.
You know how to circle strafe.
I killed him on my first try, and he dropped the Black Knight sword, which is one of the best, like, early game weapons by far, but as you upgrade it, like, it's going to be one of the best weapons for the game. It's one of the rarer weapons, and he dropped it. And I was like, soul level 12, and I'm like, holy shit. Like, I went with the Ranger class because they're equal in dex and strength, but I'm like, nope, strength build now. We're going all strength, because I got this thing, and it has, like, it took me 2 tries to do Capra Demon, which I was totally shocked, because he took me, like, seriously, it felt like 60 tries last time.
Capra Demon's a shit show even when you know what you're doing.
He is, and that's why, but I did a plunging attack off of the raised area on the back of that platform, and that seriously took out like 85% of his health with a Black Knight sword +2. Like, it was insane.
Nice.
Yeah. So then I just hit him once. I just R1'd him once, and he went down. I was like, holy fuck. Like, I could not believe it. So I'm having a lot of fun with it. Dark Souls is great, obviously. That's not, I mean, like, wow, okay, stop the presses. Wait a minute, Dark Souls is good? Nick, wow, awesome. No, it's nothing new. But that's what I'm working on now, platinuming that and enjoying it. And then when I'm done with that, I'll boot up Dark Souls 2 again and platinum that. And then when I'm done with that, I'll install Dark Souls 3 and play it for the first time.
Okay, yeah, I was about to get on you for, your order being wrong, but, you do you.
I'll get there.
Dark Souls 3 is good.
Oh, yeah. I know. I've watched LPs and knowing what I know about the rest of the series. Sure. Knowing what I know about Dark Souls 1 and 2 and Bloodborne and all that and what I've heard about 3, I'm excited to get to it, but I kind of foresee 2 stalling me out again because God 2 is just so good. It's so good.
Well, fun. I'm excited to get to it eventually.
Yeah.
Excellent. Ian, what's been grabbing you?
I'll be pretty brief. The main thing is just I've been trying out Dragon Cards, which is a new platform for playing Lord of the Rings LCG. Kind of is, I think, going to be a replacement for Octagon, definitely for me, and maybe even for a Tabletop Simulator, just because it's so fast. So some of the features Dragon Cards has, which has made me play some more Lord of the Rings recently, is you can, like, if you're on Rings DB and you're looking at one of your Lord of the Rings deck, there's a single button that says play the deck on Dragon Cards. Oh, I should say Dragon Cards lets you play in your browser, so it's not like a separate program. That's always a huge thing for ease of play. So you press the button, play this deck on Dragon's card, and it pops open Dragon Cards in another tag and loads your deck automatically, and it's ready to go with one button. So that is super helpful. You don't have to worry about image packs anymore like you used to have to with Octagon. Let's see what other features. It automatically tallies willpower and threat for you when you commit characters and when encounter cards come out. There's just a lot of features in there. It is pretty new, so there are still some bugs that pop up, but overall I think it's going to be a really good platform for playing that game.
I'm excited. I haven't tried it yet. Certainly my interest is very piqued. I'm listening through the Fellowship of the Ring on audiobook with Megan, and it's really got me feeling a certain type of way. and playing Lord of the Rings feels like the only thing to assuage that particular itch.
Yeah, I haven't tried multiplayer yet, but from what I hear, it's pretty simple to set up. It's like, you start a game, someone joins your game that's set up there like a little lobby, and you're ready to go.
I accept, Ian. I accept your invite. Fantastic. For my part, I have been kind of busy with summer plans recently. Started up a game of Sekiro, which is fun. Bought Hades, which I'm pretty pumped about. That's been really fun to play on the Switch. And I just found out that you can actually cross-save with Steam. So the fact that I bought it on Steam with great intentions and have yet to boot it up on my computer is no longer a grave error that I've made, and I get to correct that. It's pretty great. But yeah, beyond that, also just getting through the Mass Effect series. Lily is really, really digging it. We're probably halfway through 2. We're just doing all the companion side missions and clearing that stuff up. But it's been a really good time. I do like some Mass Effect. It's going to break my heart that 3 doesn't have multiplayer in it anymore, though.
I need to get back into my Mass Effect playing.
Same.
I thought you guys were going to blow past
I
me,
was
and
on track.
You were both well on your way.
I think I was the furthest ahead. I think I was halfway through
Yeah, I got distracted by... I can't even remember what I got distracted by. It happens. I get distracted easily by new games.
That's on brand.
No, it was those bugs, man. That one bug, it happened just enough to kill that one session, and then the momentum was lost.
Understandable.
I've also been playing Mario Golf lately, which I wish Scott was here because I feel like for some reason he'd appreciate that.
All right, well, excellent. Thank you, everyone, for joining us for episode 111 of Mythos Busters, and we'll see you guys next time for 112.
Bye.